There's something that you and I kind of talked about before starting the podcast. And one of the things that, we find ourselves doing nowadays with social media being so, relevant in our current society is that sometimes we see so many, for example, young people achieving so many great things in their life, right? We see musicians, we see entrepreneurs who made millions of dollars, and they created this app and happen to make a lot of money by selling it to big companies. And so we hear all these stories and then we realize to ourselves, like, man, like, what am I achieving in my life? Like, I'm not doing anything yet then compared to that person. Hello everyone, welcome to Out of the Box podcast. Today Steve and I will be having a conversation about what expectations are and basically how that really affects our world and how we think about the world and stuff like that. So without further ado, we'll get started. So I guess we can start off a little bit about explaining what expectations are. I guess is expectations would be the the one thing that kind of holds you accountable, I guess, or something that people in life kind of want you to do, right? It's almost like a compass, right? Expectations are things that or that are steps to a goal that we want to achieve, or a goal that others want us to achieve. It's a driving compass. Expectations kind of drive us to achieve goals. So they're definitely important, right? So but sometimes we have a negative connotation to it sometimes, just because it's expecting something to come out of us, right? To do something, right? And so or what would you say, Steele? What do you think are our expectations? Or maybe you can give us a better psychological answer to it.
So our expectations, are they things that we believe should happen? Are they things that we believe must happen? Or, are they beliefs that we've adopted from other people in the world, like our family or friends, about how the future in our life should be?
Mm,
Is that what an expectation is?
yeah, that's a pretty interesting way to think about it.
Yeah.
And would you say or how do these expectations develop over time? Is it like, would you say that it is a driving force to how we achieve goals and how we live out our life?
Yeah, I think expectations, yeah, so a driving force, right? So a driving force that makes us do something throughout our lives that motivates us, I guess. That's actually falling very close to self-fulfilling prophecy. And then so that
Mm,
makes me wonder, and I'm not going to jump into that, but like, because we've talked about it before, but I think expectations could certainly lead to self-fulfilling prophecy. And I think maybe
can you
expectations are a
explain that a little
factor of
bit,
it.
just for the viewers
Yeah.
that might have
Uh,
not listened to that one yet?
yeah. So self-fulfilling prophecy is like, we have a belief about something that we have a belief about the world and a belief about how the future is going to go for us. And that influences our thoughts, and our thoughts naturally influence our emotions and our behaviors that we project outward into the world. And naturally, when you're projecting behaviors and emotions out into the world, other people around you in the world are going to pick up on that, and then they're going to treat you the way that you're treating them. So self-fulfilling
Yeah.
prophecy, if you believe you're sad, if you believe that your future's hopeless, you're going to act like your future's hopeless. And it could be the tiniest things. If you want a promotion at work and you don't believe you're going to get a promotion at work, you avoid eye contact, you're passive in your approach, your body language
Hmm.
is all saying, I'm not going to get this raise. Your speech, your vocal tone, your volume of your speech, it all communicates to your boss that you don't feel very confident that you're going to get a raise. And so you don't get the raise. So self fulfilling prophecy comes true. the belief that you didn't weren't going to get a raise. How that ties into
Yeah.
expectations. So expectations, that person expect it's just easier kind of with like more of an example. So like that person expected that they were not going to get a raise. Or they expected that another example, they expected they're going to fail a test. They expected that their romantic relationship's going to end, that it's not
Hmm.
going well. And then either of those people in those situations project that outward because their expectations that those things will happen through the self-fulfilling prophecy end up coming true because of the way they act, because they believe it's going to happen. So expectations play a role in that. Now, so your question initially was expectations being a driving force for the future, I think is what you're saying. Um, yeah, I think that can happen with self-fulfilling prophecy. I also think expectations can hold you back from accomplishing or from motivating yourself from accomplishing certain things. If you expect the worst thing to happen in the future, then you're not going to be motivated, you know? So I think it can go both ways.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for sure. Like, I guess it's also being self-aware of what expectations we're putting on ourselves, right? Because there's something that you and I kind of talked about before starting the podcast, and one of the things that we find ourselves doing nowadays with social media being so relevant in our current society is that sometimes we see so many, for example, young people achieving so many great things in their life, right? We see musicians, we see entrepreneurs who made millions of dollars, and they created this app and happen to make a lot of money by selling it to big companies. And so we hear all these stories and then we realize to ourselves, like, man, like, what am I achieving in my life? Like, I'm not doing anything yet then compared to that person, right? But it's realizing, like, okay, well, am I expecting myself to be exactly like that person? And so that's where we can kind of be a little bit self-aware of, like,
Yeah,
okay, realizing what thoughts come into one's head, because I think to some degree that can bring people to feel overwhelmed at times when they say, like, hey, I'm not achieving as much as this person in my life, but
right.
why compare, right?
That's where,
Or do
yeah,
you want to hold yourself to those standards or those expectations? And I guess expectations and standards can kind of sometimes cross over a little bit, right, in terms of the meaning of it. But going back to what I was saying, it's just really realizing what expectations to follow, and be self-aware of, like, who one's listening to, right? Because if we're listening to the wrong people and just doing maybe what other people say that we should do, then that could either go in good ways or bad ways, depending who you're listening to, right?
yeah, they can. That's actually expectations, and that sort of thing where we're going with now is very personal to me, at least, especially sophomore year, St. Mary's University. I came to a very personal realization with expectations. The thing that was making, maybe not clinically, but like the depression that I was feeling for from freshman year to sophomore year at my undergrad, I finally figured it out. And it was through, yeah, sure, it's through the help of some YouTube videos and self-help YouTube and information in psychology and just studying it on my own. But I figured out a solution to that depression. And I found out it was my expectations about what should happen in my life that were making me depressed.
Mm,
It was the
yeah.
expectation that I should be engaged to a fiance right now, like by now, right?
Yeah.
Like I should already be on my way to marriage and having children because I'm in college. And
Yes.
by the time all these other people graduated college, and they always, the valedictorian speech in graduation, they always say, "Oh yeah, I met my wife in college and this stuff," or I hear about my friends getting married or from high school, all this
Mm,
stuff, and it puts a lot of, and I think society even puts that a little bit, maybe not so much anymore, but because now marriage is becoming, I guess, less popular now, from what I've noticed. But at least for me, it's still really important in my life. And so I have the societal pressure and expectations in my mind. And certainly, yeah, some of that comes from me growing up, in the Catholic Church and and growing up with my parents, and I believe, it's not like I don't believe in it. I believe in it. I think marriage is a, at least for me personally, it's something that I look forward to and want for me. Now other people might want short-term relationships or maybe just a long-term relationship. Never, they never go through the deed of marriage for whatever reason, and that's fine. But for me, I had that high expectation that I should have a fiance by the time I'm graduating college, right? And I think
Yeah.
when you put such high expectations on yourself and those expectations don't get fulfilled, it leads to disappointment. It inevitably leads to disappointment because, just, you can never predict the future. You can never know for sure. But once I let that
Yeah.
go, that's how I overcame that on my own. I never saw a counselor or anything like that. I just kind of figured out on my own and overcame it and finally started escaping that pit of depression because I realized I don't have to want, I don't have to believe that I have to be married by the time I graduate college. It's okay to let
Hmm.
that go. It's okay to let go of
Yeah.
that pressure. I don't know if you've
And
ever
it's
experienced
and
similar
it's
things or what do you think about that?
yeah. Yeah, and I think it's natural almost to almost compare oneself to others, right?
Yeah.
Like that, we notice like in art, that is good, that is bad, or that is, a little bit too much color, or we compare things all the time. And then we do that also, socially, like we say like, wow, this person drives a Ferrari, this person drives a Honda, you know. And so sometimes we create, expectations that, oh, by the time that I'm 25, like you're saying, I need to have this amazing
Right.
car or have made $1 million, but you know but why? I think that's the question.
Yeah, you ask
But
yourself
why?
why, and then that's when
Why do
you,
you need that?
it's
Why?
like you
Who
snap
told
out
you
of it.
that?
It's like you snap out
It's
of
almost
it.
like when you
Yeah.
become self-aware, is that, or that you realize it, like, oh shoot, like, yeah, maybe I don't need to earn $1 million by the
Yeah.
time I'm 25, because like I want to be an artist and I want to develop my art. And at this time, I still need to develop my artistic abilities.
Right.
And so it's gonna take maybe till I'm 35 to really like reap the rewards of, the artwork.
And you get those
But
expectations from not just people, your family or friends, but you get it from, well, society too, but you get it from TV shows, you get it from movies, you get it from memes,
yeah,
cartoons, everything. It's everything's
yeah,
promoting this great grand lifestyle. Like I have to live in this mansion, music videos, TV shows, movies, like they show people in a mansion with fancy clothes, or at least better stuff than we have, right? With in relationships, happy relationships, and every
yeah,
love
and I guess
story
like
always has a
I,
happy
I get
ending.
I guess in a way it's like it's a way for people to stay motivated, right? Like
Yeah,
to
it's not
stay
always a bad thing,
like
but
it's yeah, it's I guess you can use it in both ways, like as an energy to push you forward,
yeah,
right,
I
and work
understand
harder.
the
But
utility
like
of it.
sometimes
Yeah,
like people complain that they're working so hard, but then they don't have a life with their family, right? Like they're working
yeah,
too much, but they don't have that balance with their family. Well, why not stop working? Maybe you are meant to just work 40, like 40 hours a week and make $50,000 a year, or 60,000, or whatever the number is, which is completely arbitrary, because sometimes we we think that the value of a person comes from how much they earn a year, right? Which is really kind of coming to a degree of like how much you earn is how successful you are, right? But I think, to a certain degree, it's also the fact of like how much people you touched in your life, or how many people you've helped in the service. So I think, how we can kind of come out of the shell of expectations is just focusing on the process of becoming, right? And I know Jordan Peterson talks about this, where he talks about the fact that it's getting better each day, noticing that you're getting better, but just in your track and what you're trying to do, not in what your brother or
that's
what
my
your parents
favorite.
or what
Yeah, that's my favorite one.
your society's telling
He
you to
says you
do,
don't
like
compare
on your
yourself.
track.
Yeah, he
And
says
I
don't
think you
compare
can be
yourself to other
very happy
people.
with that, because when you
Yeah,
realize that you're growing, and I think everybody has an idea of growth, because without growth, there's, you stay stunted, you stay stable. which can often at times lead to, some sort of depression, because you just feel like nothing's going with your life. And so there's hopelessness, that sometimes comes with that lack of growth, right?
Mhm.
And but at least, because some people think about growth in skills, but maybe you can grow also in your family, getting closer to your family. There's some sort of growth, some sort of movement. And I think movement represents life. Anything and everything that moves, has life. And so if we're constantly moving and then constantly growing, then we're going somewhere, right? That's the hero's journey. The That's why we get so excited about Disney movies, because they take us on a journey of movement, of, somewhere, a goal that they're going to achieve, and eventually they get there, and they find something, they discover something, they grow into a new person. And I think that's almost like what life is like, growing into the person that you're meant to be, getting better at what you're going to become, not at what others are going to become, right? Because sometimes at times we go into a profession expecting blank amount of money, right? But if the only reason why we're going into it is because of the blank amount of money, then we kind of lose expectations of what else life means, right? What else, you know, really
Yeah,
matters, right?
fall into the
And
confirmation
so,
bias of expectations. We selectively
mhm,
focus on expectations that aren't being fulfilled, and I think we were saying is we miss the positive expectations that are being fulfilled in our lives. We don't
mhm,
look, because we're ignoring it. We're only focusing on what's not going right for us, what we want. We kind of forget to count our blessings. I've heard that said many
yeah,
times. Actually. Yeah.
count our blessings. And also I think, I would, because I also listen to Gary Vee, an entrepreneur. And so how he talks about it, getting out of expectations, is focusing on the process, right? Which is kind of very similar to what Jordan Peterson talks about, just working day by day, becoming, improving, and noticing that you're improving can help you stay on track and feel like life is worth living for, but focusing on the process of, creating, like for example, like you love creating the sets of the hot toys, that's something that you're passionate about. And so, you know whenever you create one, you feel like alive, you feel like life is worth living. It kind of takes you out of body kind of experience. So you're focusing on the process, not on the end result, because sometimes when we focus on the end result, the paycheck, the money, the house, the end result, the marriage, we forget about, the experience of like getting to know someone before you actually get married. So we're almost like taking it up in speed so that we can accomplish more. But I think the idea of more in our society has drawn us to sometimes, create expectations that are inhumane to some degree, right? Like that's why, there's, slavery, not only in the sense of, you know holding people like captives, but slavery in terms of like emotional slavery and work slavery, that we enchain ourselves to things that kind of hold us back from really enjoying the process of becoming, right? And so, or do you have any final thoughts still?
Yeah, I think so. I think we can create a prison of expectations for ourselves and imprison ourselves in our own unrealistic, very high standards and expectations that no human being can possibly achieve in the same circumstances. And that can lead to depression and hopelessness.
But it's very freeing to realize that you don't have to achieve the same amount of work that somebody else achieved, right? Like,
Right?
it's so freeing to say like, okay, maybe that person was meant to do or be this person, right? But for me, you know, individually, like I think I'm just meant to be a great writer or a great, you know, entrepreneur or a great businessman or whatever it might be, like I think when we realize, and I think it takes some self-awareness when we realize what we're meant to do, and then, you know, really go for that. Just go, or try things, sometimes like when we're young, like in our 20s, we've grown up in the school system, and sometimes, we are fortunate to really discover our passions. But if we have come out of college and still don't know what we want to do in life, then really, like, if you one puts the expectation of like, oh man, like I have to get this like $100,000 paying job, and be completely successful, so that I can show my parents that I did it, then that's creating a lot of pressure on oneself. That if that's not who you want to be, you don't have to put that pressure on yourself. And I think that's very freeing.
I
But
think,
some
yeah,
people
change
do
the question.
some people do want to like be like doing that, and that's completely fine too. But it's just being self-aware that everybody can do it at different levels, and everybody has a different journey. And so as long
Yeah,
as you're improving day by day and enjoying the process of being you, then that's really what matters.
I think changing it to the question of from what do I have to do to what do I want to do can help that,
Mm,
What do I want? Not what I need,
yeah,
you know? Yeah.
yeah. Oof. Yeah, well, awesome. Well, thank you guys for listening in. Let us know what you think about expectations. Do you have any expectations that have kind of drawn you back or pushed you forward? We would love to know a little bit more about that in the comments down below. Also, please, if you really like this video, please give us a like to help us out, and also subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. We look forward to providing more amazing content outside of box ideas. So until next time, we will see you soon.